Well, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, has been getting lots of good buzz, but I think it falls short a bit compared to other Mad Max options. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. The IMDb synopsis for Furiosa, a Mad Max saga reads, "As the world fell, young Furiosa is snatched from the green place of many mothers and falls into the hands of a great biker horde led by the warlord Dementus. Sweeping through the wasteland, they come across the citadel presided over by the Immortan Joe. While the two tyrants war for dominance, Furiosa must survive many trials as she puts together the means to find her way home." All right, so I really enjoyed Mad Max Fury Road, and that also led me to play the game on PlayStation 4 and also available on Xbox One. And that's a fantastic experience, in my opinion. And I went back and I think reappreciated the original trilogy with Mel Gibson. So I came into this really as now a fan of the Mad Max franchise. This is an interesting animal. It has about 5 chapters. It's divided up. Each is titled, and more than one is focused on the young Furiosa, not played by Anya Taylor-Joy, but a younger actress. And there's a tragedy that's key to her origin and motivation at the beginning, but really it didn't survive for me the transition to Taylor-Joy. I think I would have preferred if Anya Taylor-Joy had been there for the tragic moment. We would have seen her performance reacting to it and then carried that with us through the rest of the movie. I think that would have connected her drive throughout the rest of the movie to that moment near the beginning a lot more. As it was, I wasn't feeling that connection. I knew in theory her motivation was because of this tragedy and she was very driven because of it, but I only knew that in theory. I wasn't feeling it in the performance that I was seeing in front of me in the character that the movie was focused on. It is mostly about Furiosa and about her slowly making her way through and up the world of the wasteland and those in control of it. It does not start with the bang that Fury Road did, and it uses traditional exposition more than Fury Road did. Fury Road had almost no exposition. You're just figuring out what's going on as you watch and pay attention and piece things together. And this has a lot less of that kind of storytelling. There's still long stretches where there's no talking, but they're not doing near as much world building in that time. That was something interesting about Fury Road. Even when there was action going on and long stretches without dialogue, you were still being introduced to new facets of this strange post-apocalyptic world and trying to piece together in your mind, why things were the way they were. This movie has very little new to introduce to us about the nature of this world. It also does not focus on what I think were the endearing and heart-wrenching stories and motives of support characters, as Fury Road had. So in the first one, you had Mad Max, who was haunted and torn between helping people around him and protecting his heart. There was the naive but good-hearted war boy who was played by something Holt, something, I don't know, he's the guy that's played Beast and now he's going to be Lex Luthor, I think. Chris Holt, whatever his name is. Anyway, but he was naive and longing for self-worth and identity. He was just messed up, had been raised in a messed up system, but I could relate and feel for what he was clearly longing for. There was the old woman who was the keeper of the seeds, and just the touching kind of tragic scene involving her near the end. I won't say anything more about, but just seeing, her holding on to those seeds. And Furiosa in Fury Road, her longing for freedom and peace and seeing those hopes get dashed. I mean, there was just a lot more emotional hooks into the hearts of these characters in Fury Road compared to Furiosa. Chris Hemsworth's Dementus character, kind of one of the main villains of the story, he hints at having kind of some heart that maybe we could relate to. He mentions some children that he lost, but that's almost in passing. It does come up again eventually later, but it's just barely touched on. He's mostly just a one-note charismatic villain. There's plenty of action, but I think, I'm not sure of this, but I think a smaller percentage of the action sequences are of the chase variety, as was the case in Fury Road, and I mean in other Mad Max movies as well. And so there was less percentage of that. I mean, maybe this is a 2.5 hour movie, so maybe there's the same amount of time given to chase sequences. I don't know. I haven't timed it out, but I felt percentage-wise there was maybe less given to chase scenes. And combining that with a lack of engaging character motivations meant that the action had really no stakes for me, which I did not see coming in this movie. I can't deny that I'm glad I saw it. This world is really interesting, but this just felt like revisiting that world, a world that was already familiar to me, instead of taking me into a deeper investment in that world, showing me a different side of that world or a different layer of the already familiar environments and people groups and stuff. It just wasn't taking me any deeper into my investment with Mad Max. There were some interesting, though, connections to the video game that came out around the same time as Fury Road. Gastown is mentioned in the video game. I can't remember if that was mentioned. I think it's maybe in the first one. They're taking trips to Gastown. Maybe Bullet Town was mentioned there too, but I know it's also referenced in the video game. But the big two things that I noticed was one, Scrotus. This is another of Immortan Joe's sons, who is not a character in Fury Road, but is a character. He's the main villain for Max in the Mad Max video game. And then Chum Bucket, who is the hunchbacked mechanic who helps Max throughout the video game, has a brief appearance here. Now, these are both played by different actors than the ones that voiced them in the game. But when I saw them, I was like, wait, what? Is that really who I think? And then I confirmed later on, just by looking on IMDb and the credits, that yes, these two characters are present here. And so it seemed like, even though I think that George Miller has said that he wasn't really happy with the video game, from an outsider's perspective, it certainly looks like the video game is being honored and connected to this world. I mean, it might not be considered canon, but it nearly might as well be after watching this movie. So definitely wins some points for me in that regard. This is a richly realized world in this movie, but I'm thinking, it's presented without story or performances that make me care about the characters. Where else can I go to get a richly realized version of this world without story or performances that make me care about the character? Well, hey, I can play the video game, and there I can at least control the hero. So that's a big vote in my book after watching this, to play the game. If you haven't played it yet and you're thinking of watching this because you like Fury Road, play the game if you like console games at all. I think it's very approachable. Cast and performances. I don't have any complaints. I just don't think they had near as interesting material to work with. Anya Taylor-Joy at least matches Charlize Theron's, or Theron, however you say her name, her lower register that she was using in Fury Road. And I wasn't expecting Taylor-Joy to be able to do a similar type of part of her voice, but she's clearly taking cues from the performance in Fury Road. And Taylor-Joy is an actor that I find solid and engaging to watch, so no complaints there. Appreciated that she was at least not wildly different from the Furiosa of Fury Road, but she didn't get much chance to do more than look serious and focused most of the time. Chris Hemsworth did some nice character acting here, I thought, and I'm betting he had a great time with it. He was good, but I'm thinking that an unknown or a lesser known who's maybe more experienced with character acting could have potentially been better, could have added some weird idiosyncrasies and layers that Hemsworth just didn't have in him or something. I don't know. But I mean, that's the Hollywood system for you, to cast the big names and give them a fake nose instead of casting a character actor in this role, which I would have been really interested to see instead. It's a cool world, love to explore it, but these actor performances aren't ultimately the strong point, which again makes me think about video games. Actor performances, not the strong point there. Anyway, stunts and visuals. The stylistic camera work is a much bigger factor in presentation this time. A lot of shots where the camera is coming in on the actor really fast and then pulling back in reverse out of it. That's kind of, I don't know if that's a George Miller thing, but it sure was in this movie. He was doing this a lot. And other kind of camera type things that were presenting the story in a kind of a stylized way. And there are more varied sequences and ways in which action is presented in this compared to Fury Road, possibly made more doable through the much increased use of green screen and CGI. Now, I think plenty of folks who watch this movie will not have any criticisms about this, and that's fine. I lament the fact that my eyes seem cursed to pick out this stuff, but it's certainly why I so appreciate when effects are done practically, as so much of them, I think, were in the Fury Road compared to this one. I don't know for sure, but I can at least say that I noticed green screen and CGI a lot more in this movie than in Fury Road, which was made like 9 years ago, right? 2015 is when that came out. I didn't realize it had been so long. My gosh. In this movie, there were multiple actor and vehicle replacements in action scenes. Whereas, like, coming away from Fury Road, I was like, oh my gosh, I think some stuntmen must have died making this, because it was just looked so stinking real. Yeah, I don't know how they pulled off some of that stuff safely. Whereas here, I was like, oh, well, good thing that CGI guy won't really be hurt going under the wheels of that truck, When I can tell that that's happening, it only does more to take me out of personal investment with the stakes. And sadly, in most action sequences, for a combination of script, performances, and at least some CGI elements. I'm not saying they were completely replaced with CG, but like a CG vehicle here and there, or a CG background here and there, that combined with the other elements that were keeping me from really engaging and investing emotionally in the action and the stakes, the story, it was just another part that made me not really, I was fighting to not mentally check out a number of times watching this. And again, I think, how about instead a richly fleshed out version of this world, big post-apocalyptic action pieces that don't look realistic, but I can control the hero. Play the game. That's what it left me wanting to do. Is like, man, if it's going to look fake, well, I'd rather be in control of it. All right, themes. Is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? Beyond Vengeance is the name of the last chapter, and I won't kind of talk about the details of what happens in that chapter, but vengeance is certainly a major through line thematically. Will revenge ever be enough? Is kind of like the question that I think Furiosa has to come to grips with at some point. The reality is that vengeance will never be enough for us. We can't execute on perfect and fully satisfying justice, whether it's because we don't bring enough justice to a situation or we bring overkill to a situation. Only God can both fully and fittingly punish and also truly compensate those wronged by injustices. Forgiveness, as kind of like the alternative to vengeance for us, is not about deciding that a guilty person isn't guilty. It's not about deciding that they don't deserve punishment. We can absolutely still recognize this person is guilty and they deserve punishment. Forgiveness, rather, is saying that we will no longer hold anger and hate towards someone for what they've done. How do we do that? How can we let go of anger? Some people can do it just by, whatever kind of mantra they go through to just tell themselves, I'm not angry, I'm at peace, I'm not angry, I'm not going to hold it against them. But it's something that we as Christians can do by truly trusting in God to bring about full and perfect justice. And by the way, this includes when Christians wrong us. That there's not some kind of loophole where they get off the hook because they are not going to be under God's wrath. Genuine believers in Jesus will be spared God's wrath in eternity. But Scripture still teaches that God brings consequences, including some that he may bring about in this life that will be part of the full picture of consequences, and others involving withheld rewards in eternity. There's a number of passages that teach that will be the case, that rewards will be withheld based on the choices we make in this life. No one, including us as Christians, is free of consequences for our sins. And that sobering truth, combined with the grace that we can always remember God affords to us through Jesus, puts us in the best position to truly forgive, set aside our anger and wrath, know that God is going to handle this situation much better than we could, in fact, perfectly, and then be content in light of that to withhold our anger, withhold our wrath from someone else. All right, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, I can't wait for theaters to die. I'm ready. I have to drive there and back, which takes time. I can't pause the movie when I want. I can't eat or drink what I want. People whisper, they bump my seat. They look at their phones and distract me from the movie, which, did I mention I can't pause? Can't rewind it either to miss what I said because this person next to me... Or that it sounds and looks better on my viewing setup at home. Did I mention that? No? Can't wait for theaters to die. I've been ready for years. But today I was reminded again why I'm ready. Anyway, Pater, wait. You love the reinvigoration given to this world in Mad Max Fury Road. You love its adaptation to the Mad Max video game. But this merely dips you back into the world. It doesn't flesh it out anymore. And Furiosa was more interesting before she got her own movie. Maybe on a second viewing in your home, you'll have a different take. Hopefully you will. Buy this. By all means, buy it. You're going to want it in your Blu-ray collection. But for now, it fell short of what you thought you could have expected after Fury Road. For now, go finish your second playthrough of the Mad Max video game. It's great. Has 60 FPS boost on the Series X. Do that for now. This one is rated R for sequences of strong violence and grisly images. And those are all my thoughts for now on Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. But buy the game. It's great. I would love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. Thanks so much, you guys. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/Spirit Blade Productions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.